Hi y'all, I'm Barry Hack. Today I thought I'd add a little visualization for you with the Christmas star up above, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I also wanted to have a little something to make it a little more special for Christmas. So if you don't mind today, I'm going to go ahead and read Matthew chapter 2, the visit of the Magi or Magi, however you want to say it, the wise men. However you were taught growing up, I'm going to read you the little bit of the part of the Christmas story. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east when it rose, and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the chief priests and the teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their own country by another route. We always include this in the Christmas story, and the reason at Christmas we give gifts to one another out of love, out of the love that God has given to us, and out of love for one another. And in all honesty, the wise men were the ones who first gave gifts. I mean, it's not them first giving gifts, but they're the first one to give a gift to God, Jesus, when he was born. And so let's talk a little bit about that today. So the wise men came from the east, we see. More than likely, they came from a group. John MacArthur thinks it was a group of Magi. They were wise men, very smart. They studied astrology and astronomy, the stars. And so they saw this star rise. Now, this star behind me is a 3D animation on a green screen, so it's not real, it's just an animation. The star they saw may not have been a real star either. It may have just been the Shekinah glory of God. And the reason why I'm going on that way today is simply for the fact of when they got to Bethlehem or Judea, to get to Bethlehem, they're looking. And Bethlehem is just a small little town, so it's not a large town. But I'm sure they enter town with this large caravan, and they're looking for where the Messiah, where this king is at. Where is he staying? And I'm sure they start asking around to all the people, "Hey, where's the one born king of the Jews?" I have to admit, they must have been shocked when all the people in town are like, "Huh? What are you talking about? The star. Didn't you see the star when it came up?" How humiliating that would be, that Gentile kings or rulers, whatever you want to call them, came to seek out the King of the Jews, who they worshipped, and here none of his own people even recognized the fact that he was alive and here on earth. The time frame for the Magi coming, probably a few months to a year. A lot of people think a year to 2 years. I think it's less than that. I would say maybe 3 months to 6 months, maybe up to a year. Just depends on how great their caravan was and how far away they were, and how fast they traveled each day. Great caravan probably didn't travel 20 miles a day, simply for the fact of they needed to rest. And then again, they may have been excited and traveled more. Who knows? But nonetheless, Jesus was not quite 2 years old, I don't believe. He was probably 3 to 6 months, possibly a year, when they saw him. And when they saw him, what did they do? They worshiped him. That's why you'll see a lot of those sayings out there today. The wise men still worship Jesus Christ. It's awesome. They worshiped him, and then when they're done worshiping him, they open up gifts. Now, there were 3 gifts, and that's why we say, well, there was 3 wise men. doesn't necessarily mean that. Three gifts could have been, couple of the rulers, couple of the kings brought gold, a couple brought frankincense, and they may have all chipped in together and brought the best gifts of the land to Jesus. There may have been 20 kings or more, but we typically say three, and tradition even names them, and I'm not going to get into tradition and what their names were or what tradition calls their names were. The point is, Gentiles who knew God, who loved God, and were looking for his coming son, the Messiah who was coming to redeem the world, were watching for this sign up in the stars. They were looking for it, and they traveled far. It wasn't like they got in their car and drove a couple miles and went to church. They went a long ways. They also brought pricely, expensive, kingly gifts to give to baby Jesus. How awesome is that? You got to think of it from Mary and Joseph's perspective too. Here they are, the shepherds came first. They went and saw Simeon and Anna at the temple and were told about what this child was destined to become, and how a sword would pierce Mary's heart. They had the angels come visit them. Joseph, take Mary as your wife. Mary, hey, you're an awesome lady. You're going to give birth to God's own son. Here are the names: Emmanuel, Jesus, God saves. All this has happened, and now, in addition to all that, right before, and I like to do it right before Christmas, the Magi come, the wise men come to seek out Jesus, and here he is, a little child, and they don't go, it's a little boy. This is not the king. They recognized God's radiant glory inside of this young child, and they bowed down, okay? These are kings, these are rulers. It's like the president coming to you and bowing down, or the Queen of England coming to you and bowing down. Of course, we're not gods, but Jesus was. And so they bow down and they worship him, okay? They took some time exclaiming that he is the king. He is the sovereign ruler of all the universe. And then they get out their gifts and give it to him. Now, when you talk about Mary and Joseph, they probably weren't living in that cave, that little temporary spot. Joseph was a carpenter, we know. And he probably built them a house in Bethlehem to stay at while this whole census thing is going on. So they're probably living in a temporary house, and here they come in and they're poor. Joseph and Mary, when it shows them at the temple, they didn't bring a lamb. A lamb was the required sacrifice. They brought a couple of doves, a couple of small birds to sacrifice for their newborn son. In his stead, it's an Old Testament law. Long and short, they were not rich folk by any means. But now, God saw something's going to happen. And I don't want to talk about this week. I'm going to save it for next week. But God knew in his great, awesome, omnipotent, all-powerful, all-knowing glory what was to come, and to protect not only Joseph and Mary, but his son especially, to keep him out of harm's way. Herod wanted to kill anybody who would usurp his authority. And if you want to study Herod, you can. A long history of him killing his Jewish wife, his sons. I mean, this guy was a tyrant. Even though he did some really cool things, building a temple and entertainment places for them back then, he was a power-hungry, greedy guy. And so he wanted anyone that would come and challenge his claim to be king dead. And he did. He went out about not long from then and gave orders to all the Roman soldiers, kill anybody, any boy 2 years old and under in this vicinity. How sad, how sad. But the Christmas story is about joy. So I hope y'all enjoyed the Christmas star and the little scenery behind me today. I hope you enjoyed this story. And when you're giving gifts this Christmas season, think of the wise men. They gave out of love for God and for others. And when they gave their gifts, they gave it from their heart. And I know at Christmas time, y'all do the same thing. I know I do. When I buy gifts, I give it out of love. I don't think of anything in return. And so this Christmas season, think about how much love God has given to you. Love you guys. Have a blessed week. Merry Christmas.